But okay, so speaking of getting better, I hope Jared Leto gets better with his acting choices. Have you heard this news about some
This
of
is
his
ridiculous.
antics on the set of Morbius and his method acting? Have you heard about any of this?
Oh, I've heard about it, and it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life.
It's the most ridiculous thing. I want to just read one of the crazy things making the rounds, and then you and I can respond, especially because you and I are actors and we've dealt
Right.
with actors and we've had to be in productions with actors who take things perhaps a little too seriously sometimes. But here's what the director of Morbius, Daniel Espinosa, had to say. And it sounds like he's trying really hard to be very diplomatic about this. But when asked about it, because basically there's a story that, like, even in between takes, he was acting as if he was in pain and in crutches and all this agony, and he had to like limp his way or practically be wheeled or carried to the bathroom in between takes because he couldn't do it himself and this and
He
that.
insisted on walking with the walkers in between takes, and apparently it led to like 45-minute bathroom breaks where he was just like everyone was just sitting around, which is just like forget about it, man. Just
And
so
this is after the stories from Suicide
disrespectful.
Squad where he's delivering gifts that have used
Blood-filled
condoms.
condoms, yeah,
Yeah,
and like
used condoms
weird
and
dead
live
rats.
rats and yeah, just insanity. But here's what Daniel Espinoza had to say. He said, because I think that what Jared thinks, what Jared believes, is that somehow the pain of those movements, even when he was playing normal Michael Morbius, he needed because he's been having this pain his whole life, even though as he's alive and strong, it has to be a difference. Hey, man, it's people's processes. All of the actors believe in processes, and you, as director, you support whatever makes it as good as you can be. Yeah, he sounds a little bit like, yeah, what can I say? It's all
Yeah.
true what you've heard. And he believed that this is what he had to do. And there have been a couple of people who've had something to say about these kinds of techniques lately, right, Brett?
Yeah, so there was recently it wasn't like in I don't think in direct
Yeah.
response to this report, but Mads Mikkelsen, actor I'm a big fan of. I believe you're
Yeah.
also a big fan of his.
Oh, yeah.
Um, he had an
Ever
interview
since
in like
Le Chiffre. Sorry,
yeah,
go
Les
ahead.
Chiffres, with the
Yeah.
weird
Oh,
eyes.
these. I think about him hitting James Bond's balls with that rope with the.
A knotted rope.
Anyway. Yeah, it's terrible. All right, keep
So
going.
that's a nightmare. So yeah, he had an interview with like Variety or something, and he was asked about method acting, and he basically, I'm paraphrasing, but it was just like it's ridiculous. And he's like, and what if he's like, what if the movie you're in is bad? Then what did you do all that stuff for? It's just a waste of
Yeah.
time. Ridiculous. And then also, Will, I think it's Poulter. I don't know if I'm
Yeah.
pronouncing it
Yeah.
right, but he's gonna be in he's playing what's his face Gold Guy. Adam Warlock in
Yes, he's
Guardians of the
playing Adam
Galaxy 3.
Warlock.
He got cast.
Yeah.
He also just had some comments on it, and he was like, "Listen, he's like the method acting, like that's cool if you want to do it, but when it becomes like where you're being disrespectful to the crew or to the cast, or you're interfering with other people's processes and it's disruptive, he's like, then I'm not on board." And like he's like, there are a lot of people that unfortunately like do that and think it's giving them like the best performance, and he's like, I
Yeah.
don't think it's entirely necessary. So yeah, there's a certain point like where we went to college, they practice like we'll get into the weeds a little bit, but we practice like psychological realism, which is like the
Yeah.
Stanislavski field of acting, and that is kind of where method acting is sort of born from. But
Mm-hmm.
this stuff where like Jared Leto's taking these 45-minute bathroom breaks. I mean, there are people that like want to get home to their families. Film shoots are. I've been on both sides. I've been on sets. I've shot pilots. I've also crewed on actual films that like
Yeah.
so.
It's a
Dude, you're
long
working
day.
some of these guys 12. I
Yeah.
did a 16-hour day. Like, and listen, the pay is not good. Like,
Yeah.
basic scale is like 125 for the day. You might get overtime after like 12 hours. So 12 hours, you're getting 125 bucks. Like, that was at the time, a couple of years ago. That's what you were
Yeah.
getting. And I was interning, so I got paid nothing. All right. So
Yeesh.
that's how it was.
Yeah.
So
And imagine you
when
have
you're making
some
people,
preening
yeah,
prima donna lead actor who's like, no, I need to
yeah.
take my fifth 45-minute bathroom break.
like I get it if you want to stay in character between
Yeah.
scenes, and again, as long as you're not like doing anything that's disrupting other people's processes. But then when you're going to the bathroom and you're like, oh, I have to walk with these crutches, and then apparently like they had the level with them, and they were like, dude, these 45-minute bathroom breaks are like ridiculous because like, listen, if you go 2-3 times, that's like 2 hours of the day like
Yeah.
gone,
Yeah.
which is ridiculous. So
And
apparently they
especially
got
when
like,
you're looking
yeah,
at
he was
an
able to go wheelchair.
able-bodied man, like you're
Yeah.
staring. Imagine the absurdity of
Yeah,
you're
do your
there.
research, practice at home,
Yeah.
or like on your own time, like getting into that. And then you do something called, we'll go back to the Stanislavski method. It's
Yeah.
called emotional recall. So
Yes.
you kind of you do some of that work outside of the set, and then you get that in your head and you can go recall that. But you don't need to be living that exact moment. I
Amen.
mean,
Amen.
listen, there was tales, right? There was and they did a documentary on it. Jim Carrey on
Yes.
he was doing
Man on
Man
the
on the
Moon.
Moon,
Yep.
classic story, which I think Timothy Oliphant came out and said that documentary was pretentious.
Mm.
But apparently he was like an asshole to everybody on set, like being in character as Andy Kaufman, and
But
Andy
you see,
Kaufman's
but
character isn't.
now maybe this is just the
Yeah.
Jim Carrey apologist in me,
Mhm.
but I kind of feel like because of Andy Kaufman in particular, because of the fact that like
Right.
the way he was with his cast members and the way like you never really knew, is he messing with me or is this an act or what? I can kind of get why Jim would do it in that for that to play Andy
Yeah, he might
Kaufman.
be like the one, whatever, like
Yeah, yeah,
exception.
yeah, yeah. But there
Then
are
you have
lots of
like,
guys who are taking it too far.
yeah, Christian Bale, famously, right, on Terminator Salvation, had that
Yeah.
famous leaked
Oh,
rant where he flipped out on the lighting thing. And actually, if you remember his apology, he kind of blamed it on like the character and like
yeah.
all the stuff. And
Oh,
I was like,
yeah.
that's kind of a cop out.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
playing this general, whatever. It
Will
brings
Smith
out
even
the
kind of did the cop out with the slap when he did his acceptance speech. Oh,
really?
oh, Richard Williams was a fierce defender of family, and
Oh,
he
yeah,
tried to like use that as like why he slapped, like in a
yeah,
roundabout way, and it was really lame. So yeah,
yeah.
enough with this shit. Like, yeah, Jared Leto's like he's weird, man. I don't know, like it's too much. All right, like
Yeah.
and listen, and again, Mads Mikkelsen said it best. What if the movie you're in is not good? Like, who are you
I
impressing?
mean,
What did you do all that work for? And
that's
by all means,
apparently what happened on a different
Morbius is
Jared
not
Leto
doing
project.
good. Yeah,
Yeah. Apparently I haven't seen it, but that House of Gucci, that's one where he went full method for his Gucci character. And apparently Lady Gaga also did, and she spoke in Gucci's like Italian accent for like a year, even when she wasn't,
I
you
don't
know.
mind the voice stuff, but
Yeah,
when
because
just
that does take practice. You want to get the rhythm. Yeah. But meanwhile, apparently that Gucci movie was a big turkey. So it's like again, you put
yeah.
all this passion and effort into something that ended up being
Suicide Squad, big
or
turkey,
Morbius,
Morbius,
like.
big turkey.
Although, listen, Suicide Squad in Jared Leto's defense, I'm still of the belief that David Ayer's original cut probably would have been way better than what we got in theaters. And
Yeah, absolutely.
according to Leto, so much of his performance ended up on the cutting room floor. I'd love to see what the hell that was.
Yeah,
People
no,
say like, "Oh, Jared Leto's Joker sucked." I'm like, we barely saw him. We got like 7 minutes with him in Suicide Squad and like 4 in Zack Snyder's Justice League. I haven't seen enough to judge
yeah,
yet. But when it comes to Leto and all this stuff too, like I think you said it best, to kind of break it into acting jargon. Cause like I've done some of that stuff too. I've gone borderline method at times, but it's always only in preparation. Like when I had to play a
yeah,
blind guy, I did stuff where I blindfolded myself around the house and started learning how to like, count my steps and learn how to like learn spatial awareness without really using your eyes for anything. And I did it. I did this exercise once just to see how New Yorkers treat a blind man in the middle of the street walking through. Like, would they be kind to me? Would they be rude? Would people help me? Would people scoff at me? And I walked around with the blind cane and everything for like 4 miles through Manhattan. I learned all kinds of interesting things
yeah,
about how New York City people treat you. And then I was able to bring that to my portrayal and knowing, oh, this is what this guy's days are like. And this is what he hears when there's a lady, basically crying with sympathy for how badly she feels for him, but doesn't realize I can hear you, and this is kind of uncomfortable. But anyway, so it has its merits,
Yeah, but
but
you're not
as
in
soon
the
as
theater ruining
yes,
rehearsal going, I'm going to
exactly.
try to find my way to the bathroom right now.
Exactly. As long as you're not being disrespectful to your fellow cast members, being disrespectful to the crew that's working really hard, then do all the prep work you want. But when you hear these stories, it's just selfish, disrespectful sort of grandstanding. That's how it comes off. And what all this for a movie that, by the way, Morbius in weekend 2, listen, it had it had a good first opening weekend, but like movies with terrible word of mouth do, it dropped 74% in weekend 2. Right, Morbius is currently in a race to the bottom of the toilet. So once again, was it really worth it, Jared? Was it really
Yeah.
worth it?